Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Wavelogix Lunch and Learn. I'm Suzanne Florick, and I'm your host for today's session. We're thrilled to have you join us for a conversation that couldn't be more timely for ready-mix producers, contractors, QC teams, and DOT partners. Today, we're diving into pressures shaping our industry going into 2026. Almost Happy New Year. And how real-time strength data is changing the way projects are scheduled, verified, and delivered. We have an exceptional pair of speakers with us today. James D. Randolph, Executive Director of IRMCA, and Joe Turek, CEO of Wavelogix. Before we jump in, let me quickly run through a few housekeeping notes so you can get the most out of today's event. The session is recorded. A copy of the recording and presentation deck will be emailed to you afterward. For best viewing experience, feel free to switch between gallery and speaker view in the upper right corner of your Zoom window. If you'd like to ask a question at any time, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We'll cover as many questions as possible during the Q&A session at the end. And as always, if you run into technical issues, drop a note in the chat and our support team would be happy to help you. First up, I'd love to introduce Joe Turek, CEO of Wavelogix. Joe is an engineer, an inventor, and one of the few people who can explain AI-guided concrete strength prediction and the technology behind it without taking a breath. With multiple patents and decades of experience bringing advanced systems to market, he has a rare talent for turning complex science into practical, real-world tools. As CEO, Joe is leading Wavelogix into its next phase of growth and helping the industry understand what real-time strength data makes possible. We're lucky to have him kick us off today. Joe, I'd also like to introduce James Randolph. James has spent nearly 5 decades in ready-mix. He is the executive director of the Illinois Ready-Mix Concrete Association since 2015. From running trucks and managing plants to leading statewide QC, education, and policy efforts, he's had an amazing career. If you want to know what producers are really dealing with, mix variability, break delays, staffing pressures, new expectations, James has already heard it, solved it, or pushed the industry forward on it. He has been deeply involved in certification, education, and policy, from launching the IRMCA Illinois to the ASTM and AASHTO Compass portal, to leading QC training, to advocating for life cycle cost analysis and sustainable pavement design across Illinois. He's one of the clearest voices on where ready-mix is heading next. James, we're thrilled to have you. Before we get into the mix, let's turn it over to the one helping to redefine how we measure it. Joe, take it away.
Thanks, Suzanne. It's a pleasure to be back again on another monthly webinar series. Let's just start out with a little bit of a warm-up, a little background. Jim, you spent 47 years in running the ready-mix industry, IRMCA. What pulled you into the concrete industry, and how do you stay so passionate about it?
I've always been real interested in trucks. I've always been real interested in concrete. My grandfather finished the steps on the St. Louis Arch as a kid, knowing that. My father-in-law invited me to come into the business at the age of 20. And yes, I was married at a young age. And I started in a 2-yard, 2-stop batch plant with 6-yard mixers with separate engine drive. I only say that, I'm not going to take you from there through the decades, but to now, there's just so much to learn. We could talk about concrete from Roman times all the way up to where it's going to be 10 years from now, and we'll never be done progressing and getting better. Learning and growing is a mantra. It's very humbling to be here with you today. I appreciate it. There's always rewarding, fascinating, energizing things that happen when you look back at the concrete that you produced and say, wow, that Sears Tower is sitting on my concrete. Or wow, that hog barn that's producing food at that farm is being with my concrete. So just can't get to not liking concrete. And we like to say that concrete is the foundation of Illinois.
That's fantastic. Now, were you one of those kids that played with concrete trucks in your sandbox when you're yeah?
That's funny you say that. I say little boys and their toys, it's either guns and bows and arrows and cops and robbers, or it's trucks and dirt. And I was always the
Yeah.
trucks and dirt guy.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh man. Um, why don't we just get right into the industry and the landscape a little bit? From IRMCA's perspective, what's the kind of the biggest operational pressures that the producers are facing today and going into 26, do you think?
Well, I would answer that by saying we have very sophisticated plants, very sophisticated trucks, very sophisticated drivers that are multitasking when they're delivering their concrete. And we have very sophisticated instruments that tell us the properties of the concrete in its wet state. What we need more of is what is out of our control. You can't think of too many places that produce by demand and at the same time, they don't get to finish the product.
Mhm.
You don't like biting into an uncooked cookie. You put that all together. I mean, yeah, a lot of people like cookie dough, but the point is our results off the end of the shoot are not controlled by us. And
Mhm.
contractors and finishers are experts at what they do. They deal with weather changes, sun changes, cloudy, humidity. I could go on. And the issue is what happens from the time that it's off the chute to the time it's tested and accepted. And
Mhm.
way too many times, one time is too many. Something has failed in that process that has caused the job to stop, maybe be done for a season, maybe cost somebody anywhere from $5,000 to $12 million. I do have
Mhm.
examples of those.
Yeah.
So I really like what you're going to present today because it is a strong step in the right direction to fill that void and that gap that we've never had. And that's quality control from the shoot to curing.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I haven't heard that before, but this process is the equivalent of a baker making the mix for a cake and then handing it off to someone else then to bake it, right? And when they burn that cake, they'll go back to the one who mixed it and said, "Oh, your mix was off. You didn't make that right, and yet, your oven temperature wasn't right, or you left it in too long, or you didn't long enough." So that's, I think, a really good analogy. And I've heard you could probably verify that when there's a problem after the shoot, something goes wrong, the first person that's blamed is the ready mix company.
It's absolutely right. And that's why our producers are so good at forensics. I would just tell you in a plant, we're only allowed a 25-pound tolerance in a cubic yard of the aggregate, only a 5-pound tolerance in the cement.
Hmm.
And when we do our labs, we're only allowed zero point 0.5 gram of tolerance in our moistures and gradations. And
Wow.
to give you an example of that, you got to have a $3,000 scale, but you blow on that scale and that'll
Hmm.
weigh up 0.5 gram. That's how close
Really?
the
Hmm.
tolerances
Yeah.
are. So it can become frustrating when you put that
Hmm.
kind of investment,
Hmm.
training, time ongoing, and you think, and don't always, but you do have things dialed in, and then the rest happens.
Hmm.
And I do want to make sure I make the comment that anytime a load arrives on the job, it's tested at the job. If there's not something right, we want you to reject the load.
Hmm.
Don't be afraid to say, I think there's something wrong here. Talk to the plant. Not that there wouldn't ever be, but if there is, we would prefer to reject the load and replace it with another one.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great customer service that comes from the producers. How many producers are in Illinois? Do you know off the top of your head?
We have about 250 plants
Hmm.
and probably between 4 and 5,000 drivers.
Wow.
It's not easy to get a real hard number on that.
Hmm.
Um,
But
so,
that gives us a good perspective, I think. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
fascinating. So are there different challenges between the large producers and the small producers, or is it all about the same?
It's all about the same. The problems are the same, but
Hmm.
a larger producer can have a QC department. And
Hmm.
so, whereas the smaller ones, which there's not a whole lot of smaller ones that are left out there, maybe doing their tests and things on the weekend or, spread a little thin,
Hmm.
at times. And as we talk more about maturity, which really helps solve that problem, we
Hmm.
can't have our own QC people on every job at the
Hmm.
same time, nor will we have any authority. If I say,
Hmm.
you're not doing that slump test right, they're going to say, you go do your job, I'll do mine. Um,
Yeah.
Generally, and that's just the level that it's at. So we really need to fix this.
Hmm. One of the things I saw from one of the recent conferences I was at, which I never had a good um, perspective on and respect for, is the amount of coordination that the plants do from delivery. One, you have under 90 minutes to get your truck to the site, but you got to keep those trucks flowing. Like every 15 minutes, when they dump a load, the next load is ready. And there's this time gap between delivery and mixing it, right? And so there's a tremendous amount of handoff and control that the plant and at the site are probably always in good communication with each other, making sure that's working. Am I correct in that?
You are exactly right. My wife just gave me a plaque that says, "Don't rush me. I'm waiting for the last minute." And that describes that describes our life because everything is fluid. It's almost like having a football game and you're playing the Super Bowl
Yeah.
without a quarterback. And you're
Hmm.
letting every fan and everybody on the other team dictate what's going to happen, and you got to respond instantly. You can't
Hmm.
wait. So we think fast on our feet. We have a lot of backups, and it takes a certain personality to be in
Yeah.
this business.
To
Yeah.
do that. Yeah, it's a rush, rush, rush. And on top of that, to complicate it, the plant may be supplying mix to multiple sites to different projects at the
Oh
same
yeah,
time. Yeah.
sure.
So
It's like a 3D chessboard. You got
yeah.
trucks, you got jobs, you got weather, anything, an accident, a railroad
Hmm.
crossing hang up. I mean, there's just unlimited numbers
So
of
many
things.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Um, are there any uncertainties that are better or worse? I mean, what's kind of the easy projects to have, or what are the harder ones to work with?
Most of our producers, I would say, if not all, treat every job to perfection.
Hmm.
They, we have to have our plants calibrated by the state. We have to meet all
Hmm.
the state specifications, and all of our mixes, which are sometimes in the thousands, are approved by the state. And we
Hmm.
treat even the sidewalk, patio, footing for a basement, whatever it is, there's no on and off. It's always on, highest quality,
Hmm.
best service. And we only have 60 minutes to get the concrete off the truck from the time we leave the plant.
Hmm.
So that
Hmm.
includes travel time,
Hmm.
discharge time,
Yeah.
and then we can treat the concrete to get extended time if we need to.
Wow, that's just amazing. I could do that once, but I don't know if I could do it every day.
You get
That's
used to
that's
it.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sue, why don't you talk us through some of the QC questions?
for
Yeah.
sure.
So, um, all the quality control teams are stretched really thin. What variability issues are the most common today?
Is that the question for me?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it would be personnel.
personnel.
Personnel. Our testing equipment is qualified, it is tested, the procedures are tested, people are trained and certified that it's the same problem you would have. I won't even name a hamburger place. If you got the best training, they may still not do it the way you teach. So, again, for the most part, it's outstanding. But when it doesn't go right, it's generally someone is a little fatigued, they're upset. We're teaching the ACI Flatwork certification class because we're talking to contractors about these things. So they're not doing the same things they've been doing for the last 30 years. And that even includes the proper size crew. Don't undersize your crew. So those are the challenges in QC. Because it
Mhm.
is a living product until it is set and curing, you have to monitor. Everybody has to do their job right from the very beginning with incoming materials all the way to putting the curing on it at the end of the day and everything in between, and deal with all the things that can change with the weather and so on.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
that's what
with
makes it
all
exciting.
Yeah, really exciting. I mean, it keeps you on your toes constantly. Um, so with all the different types of ways that you pour concrete, um, is it flat work, walls, paving, cold weather? Where does your uncertainty show up most frequently?
Well, I'm afraid to say it's all the above.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you're doing a firehouse, it's got a foundation. That foundation concrete gets tested. You've got the floor, you've got the walls. It really truly is all the above. That's why we don't take our foot off the gas. Everything we do has the same quality control uh, properties and procedures, no matter what the job is. Now, to say that we test every rock and every grain of sand that goes in, we don't need to do that. But we do follow all the policies and procedures according to ASTM, ACI, AASHTO, and our DOTs.
So,
I always, if I can ask a question before I forget, I've always wanted to know the drivers that are delivering the cement in the cement truck. Uh, are they trained in something more than just delivering the material? Do they have any QC aspects that they have to deal with and understand concrete? What's their skill set?
You're absolutely correct. And most producers, and I know I did, trained my drivers on the testing best practices and procedures. However, you don't want to create a conflict. So we have them call in. If they
Mm-hmm.
see something not being done right, we have them take pictures. If specimens are
Hmm.
left out in the sun or uncovered,
Hmm.
we have them to notify us. And our trucks have cameras too. So all that technology is helpful in some degree. And we're not looking to get somebody in trouble. We just want to make sure,
Yeah.
if a test, my last IDOT meeting, IDOT pointed out if things are not done properly in the testing, then that is not a valid test for acceptance.
Hmm. Yeah.
And, I've seen bridge jobs, I've seen other jobs shut down because of acceptance, and the concrete was 100%. So it takes time out to forensically prove everything is good.
using cylinders continually slows down projects, correct?
That is a very strong weakness, if I could put it that way, because they're so easy to mishandle, so easy to not take properly. We're still getting jobs to put curing boxes that maintain temperatures. Not most cases, in many cases, the ASTM, ACI, AASHTO, IDOT rules are just simply not being followed.
Mm.
Okay.
And the cylinder handling, I'll just give you a personal story where a gentleman came, wasn't at the job. We waited and waited. He was there to take cylinders. He didn't show up till the contractor says, "We got to pour, let's go." When he showed up, he caught the concrete off the end of the chute, capped it, put it in his pickup truck, and drove it an hour and a half back to his lab while the concrete was wet. And of course, they failed. They were
Mm.
cracking all the way there. It's that kind of thing. It's very simplistic. So if we could do away with the cylinders, that would be awesome. If we could,
So, Joe, do you want to maybe explain how real-time strength aligns with ASHTO T412 to the people that are on the webinar? And then we could get into a little bit of that data collecting and how that might solve some of these problems or be part of the conversation.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, the Rebel sensor was developed to find a method that we can really completely eliminate cylinder breaks and beam breaks altogether. Maturity was a great boon to the industry, I think, to give us real-time measurement for the first time, where you can really see that concrete curing in real time. But unfortunately, it's just built off of temperature, and that temperature is only good through the hydration process, which lasts about 20 hours or a little bit longer than that. And so the approximation of maturity is only good for a short period of time, and it can't go the distance to certification, 14, 28, 56 days reliably. Um, the Rebel sensor was invented by Dr. Luna Liu, who came up with an acoustic method to look at the structural strength of the material, basically the modulus of it in real time. in a non-destructive way in situ with the sensor being buried inside the concrete so that you get true readings of its strength and a sensor that can go the complete distance, 28 days, 56 days. You can come back a year later if you want to and measure that strength. And it's that the T 412 AASHTO specification was built around for certification. Now it is up to every state to adopt that standard. Number one, number two, to decide if they want to use the sensor for early strength or if they want to take it and use it for certification. And we've got several states right now that are looking to do exactly that. Indiana and Iowa are very close to writing into the spec the use of the Rebel sensor completely from early strength all the way to final strength and use it then for certification, or qualification, which is great. Because if you can't eliminate the cylinder, the beam breaks, then we haven't moved the industry forward. And I don't know how you see that, Jim, in the industry. Is that something that the ready mix producers in the industry is looking for, and it's just a matter of the regulators to do enough testing to feel comfortable with it, or is there other type of things that are pushing back in the industry that doesn't make it a viable technology?
I think it's very viable. We're not at that phase yet of acceptance. When you say certification, I think I'm
Mhm.
saying acceptance, the same.
Acceptance, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Our DOT is not accepting performance mixes, high
Mhm.
performance mixes. We're on the cusp of that, but this would be a part of that. The tollway is a little further along with that, but
Mhm.
the whole idea is yes, this is something that is very much needed. And when you think about it, Joe, everybody wins when that concrete is accepted. When concrete's not accepted, it's either going to be discounted or it's going to be replaced. Nobody wants to get in that situation.
Right, right. One of the things that we've been talking to ready mix producers about doing using an in-place sensor is to take samples of their own truck, let's say before it leaves the site, and put it into a cylinder. We have a cylinder system that we have our sensor in the cylinder, and then basically monitor the strength growth of the concrete independent of how it was actually placed. And in case there was a problem, someone baked the cake wrong, had the temperature too high, or wasn't in the oven long enough or too long, they have maybe some greater ability to go back and say, nope, I'm sorry, the sample we took was absolutely perfect. So maybe there was something that you did wrong on your end, Mr. Contractor, right? Do you think that's a viable option for the ready mix producers? And are any of them right now doing any type of QC at their plant before it's placed?
I would say, without knowing for sure, yes. And I would let we're blessed with Chicago with some of the highest technology
Hmm.
buildings and so on. And these in the private world, these things are already accepted and
Hmm.
practiced. To get our DOTs, even FHWA is the thing. So we've got all the data, we've got the testing, the practicing, all of that works. And you're really going right into what I'm working with our DOTs in Toei right now that I'm calling QC QA squared. The
Hmm.
DOT is not going to accept a test that we do of our own product.
Hmm.
But if we have that third party, which I was suggesting a certified list that the contractor okays and the DOT okays, and if two of the three tests meet all
Hmm.
the standards, then the job proceeds, even if one is
Hmm.
not good. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
with what you're talking about, that is a third party method.
Hmm.
And it's early detection.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to more about it and moving our DOT along. And with the next
Yeah.
generation coming online that are very maybe watching webinars and doing podcasts and things, maybe are
Hmm.
more ready for it.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned something just a little bit earlier, which I've come to admire, the ability at the producer, the ready mix company, to exact some very tight quality controls in terms of mix after mix after mix. I'm always amazed that when we see a pour throughout a day, beginning, middle, and end, and we have our sensors in that pour, our sensors look at that mix and that output almost identical. Our sensors give us the same output, which is reassuring that that concrete was produced almost identically at 6 a.m. in the morning to 6 p.m. at night. It might have been 50 batches later, and there's still some great quality control and consistency of that concrete all the way through. Um, we also know that every producer creates their own strength curve, in their QC. They know what they're delivering. They know what their strength output should be at 1, 3, 7, 14, 28 days. And we're now integrating that data in from what the producer says they're delivering into our dashboard and matching our sensors against that rather than matching it against cylinders and brakes. And this is a great way. And I don't think that information is being used properly in the industry by the contractor. They do a cylinder break and that's gospel. But wait a minute. Now I'm certifying that this is what I've given you, and your cylinder isn't even close to that. Maybe there's a problem there with the cylinder, right? Um,
Just think about it, Joe. There's plants that pour 2 to 3,000 cubic yards per day,
yeah, yeah.
anywhere from 100 yards throughout the state to a couple thousand out of
Mhm.
one plant. That's not saying a company that's running 10 plants on
Mhm.
100 trucks. So the oversight, for us to do that oversight is very difficult.
Yeah.
And we won't be qualified. Our oversight would not be
Mhm.
qualified. So we're looking for this third party method
Mhm. Yeah.
uh, uh, in the assurance, the independent assurance of something better than that. That what you're saying is you
Mhm.
can identify where that sensor is
Yeah.
instead of a mile of road being,
Mhm.
oh, that's not going to go.
Yeah.
You got, oh, that was that 100-foot section. Oh, somebody added
Mhm.
water to the truck, or the
Yeah.
vibrator was too low. I mean, it's just so much more science behind it
Yeah.
that if we had maturity as a gauge and as a
Mhm.
guide, it
Mhm.
would make everybody's life better and
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
affordable.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, we say this all the time. Our sensors can't be faked. One of the things we like about the acoustic method, as opposed to maturity and temperature, is that you can't affect the temperature. The temperature will affect potentially the reading, but you can't really affect the acoustic output of our sensor. So it truly is a third party. Nobody can fudge the data. So if a
Mm.
contractor, installed the sensor, there should be some confidence between the ready mix and the owner that's a good agnostic third party kind of test. Um, but we talk about test houses, which are in Chicago are the mainstay for having a third party come in and implement doing the cylinders. And we're trying to work with those test houses as well to work on implementing the sensors properly. There is always a technique with everything, and contractors sometimes don't have enough time to do, oh, I don't want to work with this new whiz bang kind of contraption. And those third party test houses do a great job in terms of taking care of the QC QA for the contractor so that they can do their job of placing it, and then someone else can be monitoring and managing the QC aspect of it. So we're all in favor of QC houses, test houses, implementing and managing the sensor technology and placement as well, collecting that data. And the nice thing about our dashboard is that that data can be shared with the contractor, the owner, the ready mix company. Everyone could potentially be seeing that strength growing at that sensor all at the same time. You don't have to wait for someone submitting a report, days later, and then this guy says there's a problem, and then I got to call this guy up. Nobody wants to get a call in the middle of the night saying we have a problem. Everybody likes looking at real-time data and having the confidence, like, let me just pull it up on my phone and oh, everything's looking good. That's great. I can go to sleep tonight.
Joe, those are all really true facts. And Jim, do you think that the industry is ready for some innovation like this and ready to adapt to it?
From my point of view, yes, I do. When I think about if you have a $10,000 credit that a contractor's not going to pay you for because IDOT won't pay him, and you've even proven out the concrete, how many cubic yards of concrete do you have to sell with the slim margins we work with just to make that up?
Mm.
It's unconscionable. And if you have people who have accountability, who have not got accountability now, I think it would change things up. It's all about quality control, whether you're saw cutting, applying, curing, um, your placement. You've said it all, and I'll just sort of like be that broken record, but it can come out fantastic. Look at the concrete that you see every day that's been there for 30, 40, 50 years. Things were done right. And concrete is very forgiving. So if something goes wrong with the concrete, we can almost always identify why it happened and try to uh, educate people so it doesn't happen again.
Hmm.
But back to your point, I would not see using your system costing what it cost for a tear out or a credit or a lab technician. I haven't been there yet, but I think if you just slip this monitor in and go from there, I don't see that affecting the cost of concrete to the user because it's a real asset to the producer.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
that's
we were, sorry, Joe, I got
no, go
one
ahead.
quick
Mhm.
question here
Yep,
for
go ahead.
Jim. When we were
Mhm.
chatting before the webinar started, you were explaining the layers of different or different types of DOTs that just run
Mhm.
Illinois. And that was, I was amazed by that. I was not aware of that. And how do you get all of those people on the same page?
Huh. We haven't, and we keep trying.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't even mention local roads, municipalities, townships, school districts, and everybody else. But all of those do use the DOT rules and regulations. So when we're talking about what we're talking about, we're not just talking about uh, roads and bridges and highways. We're talking about everything that we pour. So private and commercial and civil all go together. And we would love for them to be under one umbrella, under one book, but we haven't accomplished that yet.
Yeah. That's great. You brought up a good point on cost, which it always irks me when someone comes out with a great technology, but it costs an arm and a leg to do it. We really felt that we had to bring a sensor to market that was cost effective. It's competitive with maturity, but if you can eliminate cylinder breaks and beam breaks, you can cut the cost in half by using, our system. So there is a cost saving benefit there as well. Um, One of the things that we see when we talk about data-driven results, when you start seeing real-time results, we really see from all the data we've taken, and we've had so far and over the last year, 1,500 sensors that were deployed and data that comes from that, we start to see that we really over cement a lot, I think, in the industry, just to make sure that if a cylinder break was low, you like kind of you cover your butt, right? So I think the rule of thumb is 10 to 20% of more cement than you really need. The net effect when you start seeing real-time data in a chart that's completely filled out is that we're reaching certified strengths in about 7 days rather than 28 days, 7 to 14, so about half the time. Which means that either if you can start to approve the strength at earlier time keeps production moving faster. Time is money, right? Um, or you can start to lower the cement and reduce the overall cost of the product and make some, concrete more competitive with asphalt. To some degree, and rising costs. Everyone likes to save money. So I think there's a lot of advantages that real-time data-driven results, whether it's, whatever the system is really important. And I think our customers just have to start to get comfortable with having real data in their hands that they didn't have before.
I want to kind of feed another point in here that I don't know that we had on our menu, and that is I can remember a time when a lawyer contacted me and said, we've got a homeowner suing because the water's running to the front of his garage. The
Mm.
contractor didn't get the grade going the right way, but we're implicating you because we want you to be the expert to help us prove it was the contractor's fault. What I
Mhm.
say by that is I believe even if IDOT doesn't or anybody else doesn't accept this as a producer, I could see this holding up in court as
Mhm.
another option to proof of the concrete. The second thing that's been a real hot button for the last 3 years, 4 years is sustainability. And we brought our
Mhm.
industry from being carbon zero by 2050. Now we're saying by 2030. And
Mhm.
so if we don't have to redo concrete, if and if we can accelerate the job process, we haven't even talked about that. I'm also
Mhm.
on the sit in the construction meetings, and sometimes the job gets delayed, and that just throws everything in a wrench and costs tons of money. And
Yeah.
so, from a sustainability standpoint and zero carbon, all of those things, I see where this could be applicable and in a court situation.
Yeah. That's you're absolutely right. Those are great insights in that. Um, I think we're coming up on kind of our time limit here. Sue, are there any last questions you want to ask that
I
points we
do
want to get across or
I do
questions
have
for Jim?
one question. Jim, you're so involved in ready mix and innovations and understand what's going on. Are there any innovations that you see having a big impact on the industry that we haven't? I mean, we've been very focused on real-time data today, but are there other ones that I'd love to know if there's anything else that you see that is going to have a big impact that you're pretty sure about.
Well, I'd like our viewers to realize that our technology, not only do we have our designs well in hand, we have computers that do the batching for us. We have sensors that tell us, no, you want to do this, you don't want to. I mean, there's so much behind the scenes that goes on with technology in the production of concrete. And I think the most recent one that's just come over the edge is AI. I think everyone's selecting their choice with AI. We have a new member right now that is a Microsoft AI executive that,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So there's could be some training there, but I would say that AI is probably the next thing.
Hmm.
And I'm starting to be a believer.
Yeah, that's great. We should, since you mentioned AI, we would just highlight the fact that in our system, we also use AI and machine learning to not only refine the accuracy of our device, and we've been able to improve the accuracy by 50% by using AI, but also we now have the ability to predict 28-day strength after
Mm,
only 3 days.
wow.
And without AI, we wouldn't be able to do that. And that's another thing we hear from producers and contractors of, boy, if I could have known at 3 days that I wasn't going to meet strength, I could have done a lot more to mitigate the damages than waiting
Right.
to 28 and sometimes 45 or longer to
Right.
hope and pray that it came up to strength when it never was going to.
Absolutely. At least you could put it on hold and not have more mistakes until you solve that
Right,
one. That
right,
literally
until you do
sweep through
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think too, we haven't mentioned what this means to owners and upper management because back when I was pulling levers and climbing stairs at that 2-yard plant, all the way till I got my first automated plant and I watched the plant batch itself and I could batch from right here, wherever I am. I could see my
Mhm.
trucks where they are. All those
Wow.
things today, but I'm thinking we can communicate with those sensors to the highest level with multiple plants and have your team lay it out so that at a glance you know exactly what you've got and you keep moving on. I just see it as an economy of efficiency,
Hmm.
or an efficiency of economy may be the better way to put it.
Yeah. Great insights. Yeah.
Yeah, Jim, this has been a great conversation, and we really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We just
Sue,
want to
we
keep
had
growing. We want to keep learning,
yeah,
improving, teaching, leading, because we see this as a big deal and everybody wins.
yeah. And hey, hats off and a shout out to IRMCA for the wonderful work that you do and the organization does for the industry. Really come to appreciate that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sue, any questions from the field?
No, not today. I think we've covered everything. But I wanted to extend a sincere thank you to you, Jim, and for sharing your deep expertise in helping us understand what producers are navigating as we head into 2026. And a big thank you to all of our attendees for joining us. A reminder that today's recording and presentation materials will be emailed shortly. And to enjoy the rest of the afternoon. And in the spirit of the season, may your holidays be strong, your mix is consistent, and your 2026 projects even better than planned. So
Thank,
we will see everyone in 2026 with some new lunch and learns.
That's great.
thank, thank you very much. And please visit our website, www.irmca.org, and we'll keep your viewers posted with that information as well. And thank you for the invitation, and thank you for your product. I
Thank
see.
you, Jim.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Merry Christmas. See you in the
Thank
new
you.
year.
Merry Christmas. Thank you. Bye-bye.